A quote by Derek Curtis Bach, an American lawyer, educator, and the former president of Harvard University. It is a quote so relevant today. Science literacy across the world is very low, estimated at about 10%. However, if you look at each country's data, science literacy is actually higher than 10%, particularly in the developing countries. But in these countries it should be higher. The result? Those who resist, or lose interest in the sciences are more likely to embrace all sorts of pseudoscience or irrational beliefs. They fail to see world problems as serious issues, such as threats to our planet, our countries, our communities, and individual health and well-being. Basically, it is much more difficult to make sound predictions about the future. Basically, our future, in 100 years, 200 years, is uncertain.
Science starts with curiosity. Something we are born with.
So what can a scientifically literate person do? A scientifically literate person can 1. Describe, explain, and predict natural phenomena. 2. Read and understand science articles in the mainstream press, and engage in social conversation about the validity of the conclusions. 3. Understand the science relevant to environmental and social issues. Communicate clearly about the science. And 4. Make informed decisions about these issues. However, a scientifically literate person who knows the scientific field is more defined as one who can 1. Understand, experiment, and reason, as well as interpret scientific facts. 2. Ask, find, or determine answers to questions derived from curiosity about everyday experiences. 3. Identify scientific issues underlying national and local decisions, and express scientifically and technologically informed positions. 4. Evaluate the quality of scientific information on the basis of its source. And 5. Pose and evaluate arguments based on evidence, and apply conclusions. So that's a textbook explanation of science literacy. But how is science literacy interwoven in the fabric of society? What does science literacy really mean to the general population? In Misinformed About What? What it means to be a science-literate citizen in a digital world, Emily Howell and Dominique Brassard say modern science-related issues are complex and dynamic, with profound implications for individuals, communities, and societies. Much of the science on these issues moves rapidly through information environments rife with incorrect, confusing, and quickly changing information. People will pay attention to some of this information, and will interpret it based on their values, while discarding others based on complex cognitive processes. Depending on all of these factors, individuals may, or may not, become polarized on these issues as they develop in society. Howell and Dominique also explain that science literacy is best conceptualized as encompassing the following 3 dimensions of literacy spanning the life cycle. 1. Civic science literacy, which is understanding how science is produced, and what that means for how science relates to broader society. 2. Digital media science literacy, which is understanding how science information appears and moves through media systems. And 3. Cognitive science literacy, which is understanding how people interpret science information when they come across it. What it means to be a science-literate citizen in a digital world. To be science-literate today, one must be able to understand the nature of scientific production, and how the data and findings relate to broader society. In essence, there is no science without evidence. All assertions must be supported by data. And every claim in science is subject to verification. So, why is scientific illiteracy so acceptable? To understand why, we have to first look at society's top influencers. Lawrence M. Krauss, a theoretical physicist and president of the Origins Project Foundation, explains in his paper entitled, "Why is Scientific Illiteracy So Acceptable?" The line between being scientifically or empirically controversial versus being politically controversial has been blurred to the point of erasure. In Washington, and many other seats of government throughout the world, belief trumps reality. For instance, Krauss says there is one refrain that has recently become popular among politicians and public figures. I am not a scientist, but. Equally prominent is the statement, I believe in science, which is then followed by some scientific gibberish. So how do attitudes about science affect science literacy rates? Attitudes about science can have a significant effect on scientific literacy. It has been well documented that students who retain high motivation for learning a particular subject will have a more positive attitude toward that subject. The ability to learn and understand science correlates with the cognitive, while attitudes about science correlates with one's affective, or emotional sphere. This means negative emotions such as anxiety and self-doubt lead to fear of science, and even boredom, which interfere with future scientific ambitions, such as losing the desire to understand science. So are efforts being made to show the value in achieving a science-literate world? A TV forum themed, Science in an Uncertain World, was held in Beijing in December of 2020, co-sponsored by China Association for Science and Technology and CGTN think tank. 10 Nobel laureates, 30 top Chinese academicians, and 300 young scientists attended both online and offline, discussing the role of the science and the importance of scientific literacy amid challenges. They agreed that promoting scientific literacy globally is crucial to coping with challenges, including the COVID-19 and climate change, and that scientists should play a more active part in bridging the gap between science and the public. Moreover, they noted, media should be given full play as an important channel of disseminating scientific knowledge and information. They urged the scientific community to stay open-minded and enhance international cooperation. Misinformed about what? What it means to be a science-literate citizen in a digital world, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine conducted a consensus study in 2016, culminating in the report, Science Literacy Concepts, Contexts, and Consequence, which highlighted the major gaps remaining in science literacy scholarship. According to the cited report, science literacy broadly refers to familiarity with the enterprise and practice of science. Although there is widespread agreement that a science-literate citizenry should be the norm in modern democracies, scholars have yet to clearly articulate what it concretely means to be science-literate in the 21st century. For instance, what skills should a science-literate individual master, and for what end? How can these skills stay relevant in ever-changing science and media environments? So how does society receive today's science-related issues? Howell and Broussard say, given the range of complex, dynamic issues and divisions we face today, there is also profound urgency in helping people develop the skills science literacy encompasses. Science literacy should help people effectively navigate complex, dynamic science issues. People should feel equipped to access and use trustworthy science-related information, when needed, for informed decision-making, both in their everyday lives and as citizens. They also need to be able to gain additional skills, as needed, to navigate misinformation and potentially highly polarized or contentious opinions across different issues and information sources. Howell and Broussard say, given the range of complex, dynamic issues and divisions we face today, there is profound urgency in helping people develop the skills science literacy encompasses. People should feel equipped to access and use trustworthy science-related information when needed for informed decision-making, both in their everyday lives and as citizens. They also need to be able to gain additional skills as needed to navigate misinformation and potentially highly polarized or contentious opinions across different issues and information sources.
Science is a human process carried out in a social context, which makes it relevant as a part of our science education. As Howell and Broussard say, in order for people to make evidence-informed decisions, everyone should seek to improve their scientific literacy. If science literacy is to truly enable people to become and stay informed, and avoid being misinformed on complex scientific issues, it has to encompass knowledge and skills that go beyond understanding what we traditionally think of as the world of science. Science literacy has to consider the entire science information life cycle. This includes how the scientific community produces science information, how media repackage and share the information, and how individuals encounter that information and form opinions on it.
So, what does this all have to do with Buddy from Town? Watch as Buddy explores the universe and evolves from Buddy from town to Buddy of singularity. In other words, watch as Buddy becomes scientifically literate. He may get confused sometimes by the information and may even make a mistake or two, but he has those YouTube shorts and comment section to correct his errors or misunderstandings. Buddy from town is going to give his best to figure it out.
Buddy will make use of such resources as NASA, CERN, and more, as well as articles by researchers and experts, images, streamed videos, current astronomy news, and many reputable astronomy and science-related educational websites. If you would like to follow along to see Buddy from town become Buddy of singularity, please click subscribe and a like would be much appreciated. Until next time, dear viewers, keep looking up and looking back, way back.